Hello, everyone. Vani Hariri here, one of the co-founders of Think 3D. And one of the biggest questions that we get, or at least the most frequently asked questions that we get, is how can you actually help us? What does the process look like? Many times when we talk about culture, it can seem so expansive, so big, so vague that people don't really know what a process like that would look like. And many times people get caught up in the idea of us fixing them, that there's something that needs to be fixed. And sometimes there may be, but it's less about fixing your culture versus enhancing your culture. It's less important about where you were versus where you are, and it's less important about where you are versus where you're going to go. And so that's what we want to focus on, is where you're going to go. So I just want to go through some of the 6 components of the healthy culture. I'll do this relatively quickly just so you can get a gist of what it is that we'll do. So the first thing that has to happen is that we have to get to the point where we add value into your employees. So when you have people that are working within your employer or within your structure, it's important that we're making sure that we're feeding them, right? When you're going on any journey, you want to make sure that you are prepared. Those people who are going with you on that journey, you want to make sure that you have the supplies. You want to make sure that people are well fed. You want to make sure that they're well equipped. You want to make sure that they're prepared for the trek that you're about to go on. And so when we think about this first part about adding value into your employees, we want to think about how are we developing them, right? How are we preparing them? A lot of times people have struggled to deal with change. And a lot of times because they haven't been prepared for change. How are we preparing them? How are we making them adaptive? This is usually done by way of leadership development, right? Starting to open their minds to the things that are possible and what they are capable of, and starting to prepare them with some of the skills necessary to go on this particular journey. So first you got to unlock the mind. As we say, we typically do more untraining than we do training. So that's usually what we're doing in this first piece of it, right? We're unlearning some of those bad habits. We're getting people open to the idea that they can have more, that they should expect more, and thus more will be expected of them. And so once we get into that place where everybody's a part of that process, now we can start the journey of moving through making a substantive change to that culture. The next piece is where we get into creating a pathway to success. And this is where we get deep into the leadership development and the actual skills. One of the things that we know to be true is that people do often what they do well, right? And so if a person is not confident in their skills, whether it be coaching, whether it be the actual task that they're assigned to do, they're not likely to engage with it in a real way. They don't want to expose themselves to something that they're not really good at, or they don't feel confident in. And so this is where we get into the skills. And when we talk about leadership, that's different than management skills. That's different than time blocking or delegation or any of those type of things. We're talking about communication, understanding people's body language, the difference between what you say versus what you communicate, understanding that it's not message sent, but it's message received. And that's how you kind of get through to people. Coaching skills, all of those type of really tangible things that allow you to have the ability to be able to lead people. Next, we move into the idea of aligning beliefs. So once people start to have the skills and once they start to be developed, why? For what? And that's what we want to get into, right? What is the belief? What is the belief that we all share? One of the common mistakes is that managers want people to believe their thing, whereas leaders want people to believe the thing, right? How do I learn how to communicate my beliefs? How do I get you to open up about your beliefs? And how do we find those common beliefs that lend itself to the type of organization that we want to have that represents both of us well, right? That truly satisfies what we both want in terms of an organization. And once we align that belief, once we have that North Star, that gives us the opportunity to make sure that we are always on the path. That even if I'm not specifically telling someone what to do or what to say or how to do it, they have a general understanding of what it is that we're trying to achieve because our North Star has been established and it's been made clear. Next, we move into deepening relationships. And this is a piece of it where we want to make connections, real connections, because if you're going to be with people as much or more in many cases as you're going to be with your family or pursuing your passions or your hobbies or anything like that, there should be real relationships there. Well, how do we establish those relationships? Well, part of it is giving real opportunity for people to have social experiences and connect and those different type of things. But a lot of it is the learn to teach model. If we really think about the people that we care the most about in our lives, the people that we really love or we really have a connection with, they all have taught us something, right? That teacher-student relationship is a powerful one. Now, the truth of the matter is that we can occupy both arenas at the same time. You could be both teacher and student at the time, and at the same time. And through our through our learn to teach model, we're able to get people to the point where we create an environment where everyone is learning and everyone is teaching. And that creates real relationship. So the person sitting next to you, your colleague, your friend, they can assist you. They can help you. They can talk you through that bad day. They can help you with the process, help you think through things, be a sounding board for you, develop those real relationships that are going to help us in the workplace. And that's one of the key things that we want to do to be able to take us to the next level in terms of creating culture. Next is increased engagement and productivity. Now, when we get into this particular phase, this is where we get in the phase where you really start to see the uptick in terms of what people can do, right? Because what happens is that when we start to have the skills, and now we have the relationships, and we have the North Star, and we know where we're going, now we get into our flow, right? And for those who are not familiar with the concept of flow, that's the balance between challenge and skill, right? If things are not challenging, you will get bored and you generally will quit them. If you don't have the skills to tackle something, if it gets too difficult for you, it's something that you will also abandon because you don't feel comfortable with that. But when we find our flow is where we kind of find that sweet spot in the middle of it, right? When you know you're supported, when you know you're connected, you know what you're tasked to do, you know you have the abilities to do it. This is where you get an opportunity to really get after it. And this is where we want to develop that ownership. We start to develop that language of people understanding exactly how they play into the success of the business or organization. This is where people start to understand, right, that they're in this too, and that their time and energy that they're investing in it should provide a return for them. And this is where we really start to get things going. Now, there's really only one level after this, and this is the best level, which is when we get to ownership. This is where we start to get value back into it. This is where we create the ecosystem, the last connector piece, where now it's not just your organization, it's our organization. And now representations of the organization are representations of me. And so if I hear my partner having a bad customer experience or treating a customer poorly, I have something to say about that because now you're representing me. The quality of the products that go out of our building are important because they represent me. The integrity of the organization and the ethics of the organization are important because they represent me. And now we have an ecosystem. Now we have an opportunity where we know that when somebody comes in off of the street, that person is going to be fed. They're going to be equipped, right? They're going to be developed. They're going to be led. They're going to be given a North Star. They're going to know what it is that they're meant to do. They're going to develop real and genuine relationships. They're going to be engaged, knowing that their work has a return and that they're doing something of value. And they're going to know that they're engaged with a business that's their business, where they develop ownership. And that's the difference between buy it and buy in. Oftentimes people want buy it, meaning that they want to be able to sell their people whatever, and they want them to take it. Whereas buy in suggests that there's ownership, there's investment, and that's far long lasting. And it does more to actually get you to where you want to go. So that's just a little bit to let you know about this radical approach to maximizing your team, which is not really radical at all, right? It's just having a plan of how you're keeping somebody in your ecosystem, making sure you're doing everything you can to make for that person to be successful. So this is the power of culture. This is kind of how we go through the process, the 6 steps to creating the culture. So I hope that answers your questions. If you have any more, remember you can always reach out to us at letsthinkthree-d.com, or you can look at us on our different social media platforms under Think 3D, and we would love to help you with any questions that you may have. Or if you want to reach out to us for a free consultation, we'd love to do that for you as well. But we look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks.